we'll get this session started. So it's my pleasure to moderate this what is on the east coast of the Americas early evening presentation. On the west, I guess, late afternoon. The presentation, or the session, I guess it's part workshop, part presentation. It's called Thinking Tuesday, Social Media as a Conduit for Social Justice. The presenters that we have with us are both involved in a project which I was only introduced to this afternoon when I had a look online at Weave News. And I think we will learn quite a bit about what Weave News is and does. It seems like a really exciting and important project. So it's my pleasure today to be able to present to you Amanda Salgueiro, who's a social media and digital content intern creator for Weave News. And she's a person from Brazil who's pursuing a degree, a double major in global and environmental studies. It seems that this Weave News is connected to St. Lawrence University. I looked that up as well. And me being across the border in Ontario, I feel some affinity. I believe I've driven past this area before on the one time in my life that I went on a trip to Lake Placid to go skiing. So you're in the Adirondacks, as far as I can see. And Amanda wants to devote her work to environmental praxis. And that's where your bio cut out, but it sounds very good to that point. That's excellent. And Mariam Waqar Khattak is a development intern with Weave News, where she hopes to learn more about independent journalism and bring underreported stories to light. Mariam's also a student at St. Lawrence University, where she majors in global studies with a minor in English. So I'm not going to get in your way very much, but I'm here to support and assist, and maybe during the question period I'll jump in a little bit, but it's all yours now, please, Amanda and Mariam.
Thank you, Mariam. I'm going to start sharing, and then we'll start the presentation with some introductions. Can everyone see it? I need to start presenting, but I don't want to lose you guys' space. I'm just, okay, here we go. Can everyone see it just again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, hi everyone. My name is Amanda. I go by she, her pronouns. As Michael introduced, thanks Michael for the introduction. I'm a global studies and environmental studies major, and I'm from Brazil, so I'm very happy to be here in a conference that celebrates Paulo Freire, which is a great thing here from my country. And my involvement with Weave News actually started with this Thinking Tuesday project, so I'm very happy to be here tonight talking about it. And I worked also as an intern with social media for Weave News, and it's really a great project and a great community that I found with them.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariam. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm also a student at St. Lawrence University with Amanda. I'm from Pakistan, so I'm an international student. I'm majoring in global studies and also English now. And yeah, my involvement with Weave News started officially over the summer, where I interned as a development intern. But on campus, I did hear about the on-campus organization and I would attend meetings. So yeah.
So we just want to give a bit of like, what is the purpose of this presentation? Well, the purpose is we want to introduce people to what Thinking Tuesday is, but also like how we go about creating this project. So we're basically young people involved in creating something for social media, which is something the youth is very involved in. But our purpose is not to make people want to replicate Thinking Tuesday or duplicate it or do exactly like it, but just to give an idea of how this project evolved and help us as a young group to think through very important topics or big words in our society and how this has helped us share a bit of our thoughts and critical knowledge we gain in this process with other people through the Weave News platform. We have in this call, I just saw John Collins, he's our supervisor. So he was actually the founder of Weave News. We're going to be talking a bit more about that. But yeah, we just wanted to let you guys know that the purpose of this presentation is also to raise awareness about our project, but also give you guys a bit of the tools on how you can create your own project that is similar to this.
Yeah, so some of you may have heard about Weave News before and some of you may have not. So just to give a bit of background on what Weave News is an organization that started in St. Lawrence University, but now operates outside of it. And it essentially evolved out of a seminar that Professor John Collins did in 2006, I believe, which was called Global News Analysis. And the seminar, it developed into something that not only analyzed what was present, but then also tried to delve into what wasn't being showed, what was underreported, or what was misreported. And the name Weave News comes out of the Latin word for context, which is contextuous, and it essentially means to weave things together. And that's why it's called Weave News, because it's weaving stories together. The original members were Professor John Collins, who's here on our call, and the students of the seminar. And then we started to recruit more students, and then it became an on-campus club, but also an organization. And as our mission statement states, Weave News aims to weave the world together and promote social justice by investigating underreported stories, highlighting alternative perspectives, and promoting grassroots media production and critical media literacy.
And a bit of how we do that, how we live our mission nowadays. Well, we have a website, weavenews.org, and there we have several series that people write articles for. So we have the local exchange, we have Reading the Streets, conflicting emotions. So we have people partnering with news writing for a website. We also have some podcasts, interweaving and conflicting emotions that we also post on. We have different topics that go from understanding race through art until the climate crisis. And we also have our social media pages, mainly Instagram and Twitter, where we post and also try to create awareness about things happening around the world. And Thinking Tuesday falls under that category of social media as well. So we're going to present a bit more about Thinking Tuesday in particular, but I just wanted to give you guys 2 minutes to understand what we're talking about. So I already mentioned, and it's a social media project, right? But how does it look like when you're actually going through it? So I would just leave you guys 2 minutes to read a bit and observe how it actually looks. There's another page. So take 1 minute to read this one, and then I'll move to the other one so we can get a sense before we start discussing it. Here's the second page of how that particular Thinking Tuesday looks. Okay, so now that you got a few seconds to just look over how that looks, I wanted to briefly connect our work with the Thinking Tuesday to Paulo Freire. As I mentioned, I'm from Brazil, so it's very close to my heart that this conference is focusing on this very important scholar. I took this picture in the slide. It's a state university in my city called WIN. And Paulo Freire, as you can see, the students painted this on their walls. And he's a very important presence because, we're living times of fascism in Brazil. We're living times of fake news and by our government. And Paulo Freire, being a Brazilian scholar, is a very important source of inspiration for us to fight against the injustice in our country, especially in the education system. And Paulo Freire also applies to, I feel, the work of Weave News and Thinking Tuesday. In particular, when I read this quote, it reminded me a lot of the process of the creation of Thinking Tuesday. I'm going to read it. Teaching is not transferring knowledge, but creating the possibilities for its production or construction. Those who teach learn by teaching, and those who learn teach by learning. So this quote of Paulo Freire, well, is that basically what we Thinking Tuesday is trying to do, because when we're teaching, right, when we're trying to write this post, it's not only about creating an absolute knowledge that we want to transmit to people. That's the truth about this topic. And it's rather like starting a conversation and challenging our notions about that particular topic. And when in the process of this creation, we talk a lot, we research a lot. And through this research, we gain so much knowledge that we could even imagine in the beginning. And the people reading these posts, they interact with us, they message us, they respond to our posts. And by doing that, they also help us learn. So I feel like this connection is very important, and this project has been very important, at least in my life, of an exchange with people and learning different things about what we deem to be like very taken for granted in society, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to connect our project with Paulo Freire's ideas as well.
So a bit about the evolution of Thinking Tuesday itself. So Thinking Tuesday it started out of a conversation between friends in July of 2020, where they were discussing how certain things are normalized, certain things that once you sit down and think about it, shouldn't be normalized. And then there was conversations about anthropocentrism, about capitalism, about an imperialist system, and a lot of the aspects of these we see in our daily lives, but we never really question. And so the first post was in 2020, and it was about something that came out of a conversation, which was anthropocentrism, and where essentially we invited the reader to rethink and reevaluate our relationship with nature, and in what ways we're taking nature for granted, and to really rethink how we interact with nature. And out of that, a series was created where we have made several posts about volunteerism, development, food sovereignty, etc. And now Thinking Tuesday is not a means of providing information, but a means to redirect attention to things that are taken for granted, to reevaluate things that we consider the absolute truth, and to really like push people to think, which is why it's called Thinking Tuesday. And since the first post, the editors as well as the outlook of the series has changed, but the core values stay the same, which is critical reflection about ourselves and our interaction with society.
Yeah, so that's a bit of the history of Thinking Tuesday, but we wanted to provide a bit of the knowledge that we gained in the process of creating this. So when we started this, we weren't experts at all. I got invited by a friend that was like, hey, I have this really cool project going on with Weave News. The Instagram was very new, and they were like, do you want to write something? It's Pride Month. And I was like, sure, why not? And in that process, we had to learn a lot. If we wanted to make this consistent, if we wanted to make this something that people engage with, if we wanted this to have reshares and more people engaging, we had to create some sort of structure. But we're all college students, and with the help of some of our supervisors, such as John Collins, we had to basically come with these guidelines from the ground up. And we wanted to share with this because we know a lot of young people and people of different ages are doing this right now in our social media. And it's a way to provide somewhat of a more critical knowledge in those platforms. So the first thing we had to try to get together was our visual style guide. We were part of an organization, Weave News, and we had to decide on these 4 important topics if we wanted to make our series something that was identifiable and something that people constantly go back to. So the first thing is the logos, the second was the color palettes, the third was the text and the fonts, and the fourth was the iconography. So how do we make Thinking Tuesday something that people look for and that people look after, right? We came up with this for Weave News in particular. So, and when we began, our logo was the WN. And so that's how we also make it a bit attached to Weave News, like the authorship of it. And in the meanwhile, we changed our visual guide style. So we had to change to this other logo that you can see here. Our color palettes, we also decided we were like getting help from friends that were designers or knew more about design. And we decided this palette. So we have the Weave palette, the palette 1 and 2. So every topic that we decide, we're like, what is the best color to convey this? What is gonna get some harmony with our feed, right? Because we're also thinking about social media strategies. And text and fonts, it's very important for consistency. Instagram is not really a very text-friendly platform in general. So it's very important that we maintain some consistency with our fonts and with the sizes to make really easy to read for people, right? And so this is the ones we came up with for Weave News in particular. And also the iconography is somehow very important because we wanted to try to convey the idea of Thinking Tuesday in a symbol. What could be the symbol? So we thought of a light bulb that was actually Melissa's idea. She's not here today, but she's a contributor to this series. And this light bulb idea was the idea of illuminating something, the idea of coming up with something new that could spark a different thought or a different way of looking at things. So that's basically how we tried to create an identity for our series in the first place.
Yeah, and just a rundown of the process itself. So it's very much a team effort. So even if one person thinks of the topic, there is consultation involved. So in a way, like everybody's kind of involved in like thinking of the theme, fleshing out the theme, and like how it's going to be demonstrated. And the outline itself, so it's an infographic format. There's like 3 to 5 slides, and then the last slide. So the first slide, as you can assume, is the title slide, which has the topic, and then the last slide has the resources, so that people can, if they want to read about it more, they can like look it up, and also for the sake of transparency. And the workload itself is splitted. I think there's around 3 to 4 people in the Thinking Tuesday team, but anybody really can contribute, and each person is responsible for a section, and that's how, you know, there's a fair division of work and everybody's kind of involved, and we get different perspectives as well.
So the production of the content itself is my favorite part. I mean, that's the bulk of it. But we usually come up with the topics as like, we try to think, what are the hot topics that are going on right now? Is there an event going on that we need to talk about? Or is there something else in our minds? Because we want to be relevant, right? We want people to see the relevance of our work in their daily lives. So after we discuss, research, and brainstorm of the topic we've chosen, we focus on dividing it into 3 up to 5 sections, as Mariam said. And we are like, who's most likely to, like, who wants to write this section? Who feels more knowledgeable about this part? Because we want to make sure that we are writing in a critical yet accessible manner. Because if you're already trying to unpack a big word, using other big words to explain it are not going to do the work. We need to do something that is critical. Of course, we don't want to do something shallow, but we also want to be using accessible language that can reach a bigger audience, right? And when we're writing, of course, we have the discussion with one another, so we learn from one another, but it's also expected that we draw data and concepts from reliable sources. In the end, that's the mission of Weave News, providing critical media literacy, right? So we can't just draw our concepts and our resources from anywhere. And we also try to present those sources in the resource page, but we also want to commit to presenting diverse perspectives and voices. So for example, if we're writing about medical racism, we need to go and research and listen, for example, to the experience of Black mothers in the US healthcare system, because that's relevant and its voice is often unrepresented on that topic. We also have historically partnered with people that are more knowledgeable about certain topics. So when we did a Thinking Tuesday on anti-trans legislation, we also invited a trans person to partner with us and give another perspective. Or when we also talked about movements in Myanmar, we had a person also more knowledgeable from Myanmar helping us out with that. So that we make sure that we are having diverse coverage. We also strive to have 50 to about 120 words in each slide so that it's easy to read. As I said, Instagram's not text friendly, but it's what everyone's using right now. And four, even though we focus on our assigned sections, so for example, I'm writing about what is medical racism, I need to read through other people's comments and parts as well, because it's important that we give feedback, ideas, and we make sure that there's no repetition, right? We want to be concise. And so this collaborative process is very important of reading yours, reading others, and changing what's needed. The editing process is the most straightforward one. We usually notify the people responsible for editing when it's ready. Professor John Collins is usually involved in that as well, and the social media coordinator. And again, it's a collaborative process. We need to go beyond the grammar and the language editing, but we also receive feedback on the idea, the follow-up questions, and we're expected to create a conversation there to improve the content that we're providing to our audience. And then we make the final edits and we format. So when we go to the formatting part, we go back to that templates that I showed you in the beginning, right? We're trying to, and Mariam's going to talk more about it, but we try to fit that into the template of Thinking Tuesday that is the identity we created for it.
Yeah, so this is just a quick breakdown of the template itself and to give you an example of what we do. So just to make sure that number one, it's visible on our feed. And number two, when people reshare it, like it can be linked back to Weave News because it's Weave News work. We have the same front title slide with the circle and the Thinking Tuesday, and it has the iconography on top. So it's very easily recognizable. And we briefly try to summarize what we're talking about in the first slide. And then the second slide is a quote that we pull out from the internet or like a book or whatever, and it's linked to our argument or like what we're presenting about. Can you go to the next slide, please, Amanda? Yeah, and then each section has a title, and as Amanda said, like a lot of the times, since it's Instagram, we can't make it very content heavy, so we try to summarize arguments as best as we can. And a trick that we use is to make certain sentences or phrases bold, so that they attract attention, and like even if you're skimming through it, you still get a basic idea of it. And then we also always link further social media resources or like any resources that we use or even any resources that we recommend, just so as I mentioned before, Thinking Tuesday, it pushes for critical reflection. It's not really there to cement an argument. It's not really there to persuade, but it's there to allow people to reflect. And that's why we include resources, and we always encourage further reflection and further reading.
Yeah, I feel like just a final thought on the way we organize it, but we always refer to Thinking Tuesday as a starting point, as Mariam said. We always encourage people to go to the resources that we mentioned, but also we know that social media is not an end in itself. So we don't want this Thinking Tuesday to be like, oh, I read it, I'm knowledgeable. If really our mission in the end is social justice, right? I feel like this Thinking Tuesday is more like a catalyst for conversations and changes in the place that we live. So we're hoping really that Thinking Tuesday has the effects in other people as it has on our group, which is like, we think about it and we're like, wow, I never thought about veganism from that particular light. And then we start talking about it and changing our perspectives and the way we carry out those practices in our lives. So I feel that, that's important to notice. We don't want the internet and the social media to be an end in itself, but rather to be a catalyst for some actual changes in our personal and collective lives, wherever we are, in a university, in a workplace, whatever that may be. So in our workshop part, we wanted to create a bit of a discussion. I don't know how many people we have on right now, because I'm sharing the screen.
We're 13.
Yeah, I don't think we would. What do you think, Mariam? Do you think we should break out?
I think we can have a general discussion since there's not many of us.
Yeah. So we wanted to see, like, well, this was more a presentation of how we do things, but we wanted to see if anyone has a similar project or what they could learn from Thinking Tuesday to apply in their own project or even a personal life.
Excuse me, Amanda. I think we should just do like a 2-minute question session. So if anybody has any questions or like anything that we can clarify, like ask away, I guess.
That's good. I'm Michael Hoeksman, the moderator, and I do have a question, but others would be welcome to ask questions as well. I'm wondering how you curate your the choices, because I see a consistent set of critical themes, and I'm just thinking if I tried this in my own post-secondary institution, we would likely get some people wanting to pursue vaccines as poison or something like that. Like that, I'm not sure how you're able to keep an editorial consistency that revolves around critical social issues.
I think, Amanda, I'll just like make it really brief, but I think that we didn't really have to make an active effort to keep a consistent theme. It's just that the people that were drawn to Weave News as an organization were either of a similar positionality or like a similar political leaning. And it's also because of how it started. It started in the Global Studies department, and certain type of people were attracted to the Global Studies department, and it kind of evolved through there. But I don't think we've ever been in a situation where we had to curate our topics or our themes. I think we've been fortunate in some senses. I think, like, at least from my positionality, Amanda, you can.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. We have some sort of consensus, at least in like, what do we think we should cover in this Thinking Tuesday? Sometimes actually the problem is that we have too many ideas and we're like, well, what is more relevant right now? And sometimes we change it according to what I mentioned before, the relevance of the topic. We do have some backlash sometimes though. I remember we wrote one on veganism that was really, really popular and many people disagreeing. So it's more like, instead of a disagreement in our group itself, we receive some feedback from other people as well, which is always constructive. But the choice of topics is usually pretty straightforward. A lot of us also develop some sort of friendship relationship as well. So that also makes the process much more smoother.
Yeah, I think just to like add on to that a little bit, we do receive backlash from our viewership, but Weave News and Thinking Tuesday, and we've always been very transparent about who our members are, and we've never pretended to speak objectively. We've pretended to speak from an honest place, and so we do receive backlash on our work. We've covered Israel and Palestine. We've covered vaccine apartheid. We've covered veganism, certain racially sensitive topics. So yeah, we still have our political leanings. We have our positionalities and our perspectives.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and in fact, your orientation towards the underrepresented story and on a global sphere, global level is, extraordinarily important, and can lead to so many wonderful future projects. Anyway, I'm hogging because I'm excited here. I'm taking too much space. does somebody want to ask a question before the presenters go into the questions they've prepared? Or a comment? I guess it's back to you, Amanda and Mariam.
I don't, Mariam, what do you think? I feel like if we were in the small groups, we were thinking that maybe people could think of Thinking Tuesdays that they could create. But since we're in a bigger group, I feel like it would be nice if we could talk a bit about what you guys think would be the limitations of exploring topics in such a format. It's one of the ways of doing it, but we know that there are some, it's not always the best way of doing it. So we wanted to hear from people, what do they think are some of the limitations of exploring topics in that way, and how they could overcome, or how would they overcome those type of limitations?
We can go in the breakout rooms, you know, each of you could lead a room, and maybe we could just go for 10 minutes and
yeah, let's do like a breakout room discussion and then everybody gets back together.
yeah, I don't know where the setting is for how many minutes I should put on this, but I certainly can recreate the rooms. Oh, there's only 4 per room. We can make more than that, right? Why does it forcing us? Oh, we'll just do that. I've made some mistakes here. So I don't know if we have a specific amount of time, but we'll be in touch. Just please feel free to join a room. Well, could we hear a little bit about, you've talked about impact in terms of how a few people, you know, how some reactions, but are you getting attention beyond Canton, but beyond Northeastern New York? Is this having a range of, you know, an impact around the world? It deserves it. It's really great. I'm really happy for what you're doing there. And I say this as a former director of education of a news agency for youth. I was involved in a Canadian project, which then became a North American project, but we were in the major newspapers, and it was a, you know, it wasn't the era of Instagram, but I'm so excited about your project because I've been involved in this type of work.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say that our impact is pretty much spread around the world, especially because, I mean, as we said, there is some relation between Salgueiro University and Weave News, so a lot of students get involved. But Weave News right now is an independent organization as well. But once the students graduate and they go back to either their countries or their states and their cities, they bring Weave News with them. So right now we have people working in Sweden, Singapore, and other countries. When COVID happened, I was working for Weave News from Brazil. So we bring that impact to our communities and the people that are there. So I know a lot of my friends in Brazil who listen to the Weave News podcast, and people from all around the world that contribute to Weave News as well that are not in Canton or related to the university at all. So we have some people writing about Eswatini recently. We had people writing about Cuba and about Myanmar, and they come from these communities, and they usually either have access to Weave News by the internet, or they know Professor Collins or anyone else involved in the Weave News community, and then they contribute. So I would say it's pretty much something spread worldwide.
Yeah, I worked as a development intern, and I saw that our viewership for our website was literally all around the globe. And so it did start as a very small group, but I think everybody was very committed. And as Amanda said, they took Weave News with them. And I know people in Pakistan that read Weave News, that share our content. And Amanda knows people in Brazil, and think that's just it. I think our positionalities have really helped our viewership, because we're committed to our work, and like anybody that reads it really sees that we come from an honest and transparent place, and that we're there to uplift stories. I remember I submitted a podcast about the coronavirus situation in Pakistan last year, and there have been podcasts from people that are in Myanmar under the dictatorship, or people from around the globe essentially. And so I think we are a little global network. It's quite nice.
But you know how a news organization can sometimes change the world, right? By putting the right ideas in the right moment, and it gets picked up like wildfire and has an impact. Do you have any stories like that? Is there, and this doesn't have to be at a mass scale, but you know, regional impact, where you mentioned just now, you mentioned Myanmar, you mentioned various, in this whole time, you've mentioned a whole number of different types of stories.
I feel like once, Mariam, if you want, Mariam just mentioned it, and I feel something that was very impactful was our COVID diaries. So when COVID happened, I was in a class with Dr. John Collins, and we knew we were going to have to close the school and go back to our houses and homes, and people sometimes going to other countries, such as myself. And we were like, well, what can we do about it? And then since Dr. John Collins is involved in Weave News and some other people in the class, people gathered and created the COVID Diaries series. And basically people, as Mariam said, from all around the world were contributing with their stories. We had people from India, Finland, Pakistan, everywhere, and we would compile them into a podcast. And so I believe we had 15 episodes of people reporting from the ground what is going on. I remember saying that, talking about drug traffic in Brazil and how they were organizing certain neighborhoods because the government wasn't reaching the region, and people talking about how the medical situation was. So that was really like a way to inform people beyond what was getting to the news, which was really, really interesting.
And yeah, just to add on that, I remember in my experience, when I really saw Weave News or like our social media content blowing up was, I think when Israel attacked Sheikh Jarrah, and at that point there was light on Palestine again, because it was so recent, and people were looking for resources, and our resources came up a lot, because even before Sheikh Jarrah and for many years, Weave News has been talking about Palestine, talking about Palestinian stories. If you go to our website, if you go to our social media page, and I think that was a point where I would go on my Instagram feed and I would open highlights, and everybody's story had an infographic that Weave News created, or something out of a Weave News article. And I think that's when I really appreciated the impact of our work, because even though it was just my followers or like my circle, it was still really interesting to see how important the work that Weave News does is.
Exciting. Alexandra has another question for you.
Thank you, Professor Michael. And in case I am speaking in front of anyone, please, if other people have questions, they can come forward for sure. It's just because I'm very curious about your work, and myself as a journalist and as someone who studies communication, I think it's just remarkable, and it's a terrific work. So congratulations to you both and to all your staff, to all the people who are collaborating. My question is exactly about expanding on the point Professor Michael just did. I would like to know from you personally, what stories did you think were the most challenging ones to cover in With News, and which stories changed you the most? Let's say, changed your positions.
Good one.
That's a hard one. I feel the story that was hardest to write was on Israeli occupation of Palestine. So I remember on campus here in Canton, we had a vigil in solidarity for Palestinians, and I attended, and I decided to write a piece for Weave News about that, about what was happening briefly, and about this this event. And it's it's hard because people's mainstream idea of what's happening is like it's a conflict between two countries and that's it. And Weave News bring this critical perspective of settler colonialism and understanding Palestinian resistance against the Israeli apartheid regime. And it isn't easy to write an article with this terminology when people even refuse to acknowledge that that's occupation in the first place. So it was hard to me to write that, and I was also a bit apprehensive about how people would receive it. But I knew that Weave News was a platform that I could feel free to write what I knew and to do my research, and that I would feel welcomed. And also during the editing process. And in the end, it was, I wrote the article, it's published, it's in the website, and it was a very nice opportunity for me, and to like also revisit like my ideas as a writer and how do I feel comfortable expressing my opinions to others.
And for me was a voice note submission that I did for the COVID Diaries podcast, and it was about how last year during the COVID pandemic and the lockdown, the Pashtun community, who was an ethnic minority in Pakistan, and I belong to the Pashtun community, the Pashtun community was being attacked by the military establishment, and how young men were being taken away from homes without any reason, without any judicial backing. There were extrajudicial murders, and it was difficult for me to post that because number one, it was a very it's a very emotionally challenging thing to speak about in a coherent manner or even rationalize. And number two, there was threat from the establishment because our networks are so controlled. So I think even the submission process was difficult and it was risky. But I think I got some emails after that submission. I think it did feel nice and it did feel like I did the right thing and there was a sense of fulfillment. But it's not always easy just because of like the world that we're operating from. And there's always this balance between what is safe and what my values are. Amanda, I think we should move on to the questions. I would like to hear people's thoughts on, thank you, people's thoughts on using the infographic medium as a means of conveying information, or as a form of almost new journalism, just because people get so much of their information now from social media rather than traditional media sources. And basically, in my research, and I know people have thoughts about it, I saw that a lot of people, when there's a recent event, for example, the attack of Sheikh Jarrah by Israeli forces, people look to social media, and it's almost a performative activism because they share something that they've read about it without actually even going through it. Or even if they do go through it, I know that infographics, because of our limitation of words, we can't use more than 120 words. A lot of nuances are left behind. I was wondering what you guys think about using the infographic medium and how do we overcome the limitations?
Yeah, I feel that's something we had to deal with a lot. Like if We've News is promoting, knowledge and critical knowledge, how are we going to do that in 120 words per slide is like a bit contradictory. It sounds a bit contradictory at first, right? But I feel like one of the ways we have tried to mitigate that in our organization is by, one, not framing it as absolute knowledge and end in itself, but rather like a starting point. From here, research. From here, think about it. From here, start a conversation with your friends. And also indicating resources that can bring people further. For example, that's what we said, but if you want to watch this video or if you want to read this journal article, that's a great resource you can go to. And also having other types of work itself. Weave News has the articles, right? So sometimes we're talking about topics that we have written articles about. So redirecting our audience to these articles where they can get more knowledge about the situation is one of the ways I think we try to escape this social media paradox of we get so much attention, but what are we getting attention to? Are we really making them, question and change their views in such a limited space?
Well, it seems that data visualization is one of the new literacies, like when we push past text and even image text, like there's been picture books for years and there's been tables, there's been graphs, but there's something, that's developing now that allows for snapshots, right? Like an immediacy, like the infographic can hold a lot in one space. And then it also has this, I think, it carries with it a sort of an aura of authority. Like if it's in an infographic, it's probably true. It's almost like the way statistics have been used through the years, like, oh, wow, you got it in an infographic. So I think your question is more like, where does the reader go next, right? Like, what can I indicate you to fill this in a little bit? Actually, even the notion of textual literacies, the old ones are vertical and the new ones are horizontal, so that the new literacies are all about making connection between one thing and another. And the old literacies were about going into terrific depth, right? So it's breadth and depth. And if you can bring us to that intersection, it's genius. It's really, really great. Like, you guys are really onto something, especially working in these mediums, which they're almost biased against deep thought, I think that's what they are, right? That's what the problem is, And you're saying, no, we can do this. We can actually do this in these spaces. You can see I'm very enthusiastic. I mean, Alexandra probably has got something to jump forward with too, but I don't know if anybody else would like to add in.
If nobody else wants to jump in, Professor, someone wants?
We have 4 minutes. Well,
okay.
No. I think
because I really, while Amanda and Mariam were speaking, I was here looking the Facebook page of Weave News, and it's just marvelous the way you are using the infographics in order to transmit really complex topics and subjects. And as Mariam pointed out, topics that are not being covered by hegemonic corporate media, which is the most important aspect. What I think it's interesting, it's perhaps going in another direction, is thinking about the tensions that can come up from this format. And by tensions, I mean talking about Brazil, my country and Amanda's country. According to the National Institute of Adult Literacy, which is called INAFI in Brazil, 20% of Brazilians are semi-illiterate, like in general, not only in media terms. What I think is so interesting about the infograph is that the more pictures you use and the more they can be transformed, perhaps in the form of videos, animations, and most importantly, audio media, it becomes more democratic. I assume there are high illiteracy rates too in Central Asia, in the Middle East, in North Africa, in Sub-Saharan Africa, and throughout Latin America. And I think what you're doing is heroic, and perhaps one interesting way you could go in the future, because I know it's going to be Weave News is going to last for many, many years, I'm sure, is perhaps trying to reach those audiences that cannot read. Perhaps it's an idea.
No, definitely. And our topic is to make knowledge not only to unearth stories that haven't been represented, but then also to like make that knowledge accessible. And it's really great that complex topics are simplified and everybody can go through them. And obviously we have this is just Thinking Tuesday, we have other means. We have Weaving the Streets, we have podcasts on both Spotify and Apple Music. And yeah, I think Amanda has something to add.
Yeah, I feel like also the great thing is I strongly believe that since I started working with Weave News, my media literacy skills have enhanced. So it's not like, oh, you need to be perfect to enter and do this for us, but it was really a process of growth for me. Like even this Thinking Tuesday, it was a journey from like 0 to something, and like working with people and discussing was literally like learning from each other. So I feel like one of the great things about Weave News as well is not only like spreading media literacy to other people, but like let's try to get people involved that can learn doing it, that can like let's form new people, new young journalists, new young people who develop and know how the project works, like Mariam, and let's teach them those skills. And that like Weave News has had a really big impact in my university career, but also like in my personal life as well. So I think that's one of the great impacts of this project.
Yeah, I guess I get the privilege of closing, being the moderator and everything, but I just like to say that the work I was doing with the youth journalists, the Young People's Press, we did a follow-up, a 10-year follow-up. So 10 years later, brought together a focus group. And it's just really interesting that, you know, some people that will get involved in a project like yours were already heading towards journalism. But some of you were drawn into this through the content itself, through the very ideas and the desire to communicate and make a difference. And where writing will be in your lives, you know, it will vary. Some of you will make this a profession, but everyone will be a critically engaged citizen through this process. Each of you will have, you know, the critical abilities, but also not just simply the critical abilities to see through things, but to know how to respond. You know how to write a letter, you know how to create an infographic, and you will proceed with that. It's terrific work. So happy for you, and I wish we'd had more people here, but we'll make sure to spread the word. So thanks everybody. Thanks to the audience. Thanks to our presenters. Thanks to the enthusiastic response of our Brazilian contributors, which doesn't say anybody else. I'm talking about the question asker. But this will be it for now. There's a session celebrating Paulo Freire that starts in about 13 minutes, and tomorrow there's another day. So please join us for some of the sessions tomorrow. And yeah, carry on with this great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for organizing this.
Bye.